No matter how many fantasy football gurus and crystal balls you have, there's no guarantee that you're taking home the win this weekend. But you know what's always a chip shot field goal? Surprising your friends or loved ones with gorgeous bouquets from 1-800-Flowers.com. Take it from me, when it comes to making your loved ones feel truly appreciated, bouquets from 1-800-Flowers are a lock. And right now, 1-800-Flowers is giving my listeners an exclusive 36 for 36 offer. 36 autumn roses, $36. That's only $1 per rose. This beautiful arrangement of fall, red, orange, and yellow roses will leave her stunned without spending a fortune. It's the best of both worlds. Amazing roses at an unbeatable price. These gorgeous roses from 1-800-Flowers are picked at their peak and shipped overnight to ensure freshness. 36 autumn roses, only $36. Unbelievable deal, and a small price to pay with all your fantasy league winnings. There's 1-800-Flowers.com, and then there's everybody else. You know who I trust when the game's on the line. To order 36 autumn roses for only $36, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/Mike. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/Mike. And hurry, the offer ends Friday.
It's time for some straight talk. The big wireless companies charge a boatload for their superior network coverage. But guess what? Straight Talk uses the same cell towers but charges a lot less. Who knew? Well, now you do. And I do. So let's do something. It's time to switch to Straight Talk. Unlimited plans start as low as $35 a month on America's largest, most dependable networks. Straight Talk Wireless. Only at Walmart.
Savings may vary. A month equals 30 days. Please refer always to the latest terms and conditions of service at straighttalk.com.
Here we are. We are back in better than ever. Mike and Mike saying good morning. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. It's a Monday morning in October. The Astros and the Dodgers are halfway to the World Series. We've got your baseball coverage today. Terrible injury news from the NFL about the last thing in the world they needed happened. And I promise not to make too big a deal about the sham of a mockery of a joke of a disgrace of a criminal act that took place in the Jet game yesterday. Golick, how we doing?
Oh, my God. You know, when I saw
I don't want to talk about it. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm not going to talk about it.
You don't want to talk about it?
No.
You just read an open.
Right.
I mean, you craft these opens every single day.
Right.
I mean, they're like your Picasso.
That's exactly right.
Okay?
Closest I'm ever going to get.
That's exactly right. It's your Sistine Chapel. 16th chapel. The 32nd chapel.
Any number of chapel you want to apply to it, that was the worst call I've ever seen in my entire life. This is what you do, so we start to talk about it, and you say you don't want to talk about it. All right. Go ahead. You talk about it.
We'll talk about it at some point.
America wants to hear you talk about it.
Well, we'll get to it. I didn't really understand the call of it being overturned. I thought Jenkins handled it incredibly well. The tight end for the Jets after the game, if nobody knows what we're talking about, it was the touchdown that was taken away from the Jets, who looked like they were going to roll the Patriots early. But then again, you know, that happens, and then they usually come back. But there were a couple of plays where I had some issues with the calls. That certainly was one of them that we'll get to. He did lose possession of the ball. I thought he regained possession, and his knee was down, and he hit the pylon. I was stunned at the overturn, especially when you call it one way. I mean, you need such visual evidence to overturn something. And while I did see the ball was free, I thought he regained possession of it. So I know we'll get into it more, and I'll let you have your say. You have to try and do it calmly, though.
Yeah, of course.
You know?
No, I'm going to make it very calm, and I think the point is really very simple. I don't think this is something that we should find the person who was responsible for this. Al Riveron, I believe, is his name. Mm-hmm. And I'm not suggesting that he should be fired or suspended. I believe he should be prosecuted criminally.
Think so?
Yes, yeah. I do believe that this actually rises to the level of a criminal act because it's the worst call I've ever seen in any sport, not only in any sporting event, but I think maybe in the history of human civilization. Yeah. I can't remember the last time anyone had a worse idea than that. Yeah. Let's overturn that. So you're telling me that you can tell me with 100% certainty, in order to overturn a call, there has to be indisputable visual evidence. And it's been a long time since I was in school, but I'm pretty sure I know that the meaning of indisputable means that no one in the world could disagree. Right? It's sort of like the standard of proof in a courtroom is beyond any reasonable doubt. You're telling me that beyond any reasonable doubt, you can tell me with certainty that he lost possession of the ball, did not regain it, lost it again, and did not complete the act going all the way to the ground.
I thought long and hard when I got up at 4:15 about texting Ray and saying I was sick and couldn't make it in today.
I have other definitions of the word indisputable over here. Incontrovertible, incontestable, undeniable, irrefutable, beyond dispute, unassailable, unquestionable. Does any of those rise to this level? Go ahead.
No.
Okay. Am I kidding? Not really.
How you are here,
yeah.
There was a bunch of tweets out, and I answered some guy. He tweets, look at the NFL, always finding a way to cheat for the Patriots.
Yeah.
I tweeted him back and I said, you do realize this is the same NFL that spent over a year going after Tom Brady for deflated football and finally sat him for 4 games. Okay?
Yeah.
And then he answered back by saying that they always get the calls. I said, you haven't answered my question. This is the same NFL that does that. He said, yeah.
Now, here's the genius of it. This is their way of getting it back. This is their way of giving it back to Kraft and Belichick and Brady. Is that, you know what? We'll wait till exactly the right moment, and then we'll get a tight end named Austin Seferian-Jenkins, who's playing the game of his life.
Yes, he is.
Who will clearly score a touchdown that will give the Jets a chance and momentum in the fourth quarter, and instead we will create a rule. Again, I'm not suggesting that this is that big of a deal. I'm not calling for anybody's job. I'm calling for a criminal investigation, and I'm sure that one is to come.
Off the top.
All right, let's get rolling here. Off the top in other places. The Dodgers have taken a 2-0 lead in the NLCS, and they do it in dramatic walk-off fashion last night at home.
Justin Turner was the man, second player in Dodger history to hit a walk-off home run in the postseason. It happened exactly 29 years to the day of the other guy. You remember who that was?
That was Kirk Gibson.
How about that? 29 years to the day yesterday, Kirk Gibson's pinch hit walk-off home run in Game 1 of the 88 World Series. 29 years later, Justin Turner hits a 3-run walk-off shot for the Dodgers last night. That was fantastic. What a way to end the game. 1-1 going into the ninth. Lackey pitching, not Davis. Kind of an interesting thought process there that I know a lot of our baseball people were talking about. But Justin Turner gets the shot, and the Dodgers get the 2-zip lead over the Cubs.
Yeah, Joe Madden getting criticized in a lot of different places for that decision. And remember, Madden is a guy... His players picked him up last year because Madden made a bunch of decisions in the World Series last year that if they had wound up losing, he was going to be the GOAT. And I don't mean that cheekily, considering it was the curse of the Billy Goat, but in a more traditional sports sense. So we'll see what winds up happening with that. Meanwhile, the ALCS moves tonight to the Bronx after a couple of 2-1 Astro wins in Houston. And just, I know it feels like it's about 7 weeks ago that game was played on Saturday night. What's the last time you saw a team lose in a worse way than the Yankees lost that game?
You're not kidding.
That play was just brutal.
Unbelievable. There were some interesting plays in these games from, throwouts of stretching, doubles into triples or trying to, and some wacky plays all around going on in this. So, as you mentioned, 2-1 game, so they're down 2-zip again. They face another 2-0 deficit. Only 2 teams in postseason history have come back from 2-0 series deficits multiple times in a postseason. No team has done it before advancing to the World Series. Those 2 teams, the 85 Royals and the 81 Dodgers, are the only 2 teams that have done it in the postseason.
Look, this has been a great series. I mean,
it has.
Those 2 games are both tight and exciting and fun. And even as one who is a fan of the Yankees and rooting for them, it was nice to see them hand the ball to Justin Verlander the other night and him not give it back.
Let me tell you
what. He wasn't coming out of that game.
How about between Keuchel and Verlander?
That's the thing.
Holy smokes.
And that's where the Yankees are in trouble because you got those 2 guys coming around the bend once more, and that's not going to be easy, although they had their chances against Verlander the other day, and Severino pitched very well.
They absolutely did. Now you have Morton against Sabathia. I could see the Yankees getting one back here, but like you said, they got to come around to those 2 guys again, so going to be a tough road for the Yankees.
Off the top.
What else? Oh, the Giants, the New York Football Giants won. If you didn't stay up last night, assuming that they had no chance in Denver, think again. Depleted as they are by injury, the Giants found a way to get their first win of the season.
It was pretty amazing. The Giants had over 140 yards rushing, 148. Now, 47 came on 1 run, but still 32 rushes, 31 if you take that away, 31 for 101, 32 for the 148. They had 99 rushing yards before contact, more than the Broncos allowed in their first 4 games of the season combined. Orleans Darkwa had 83 rush yards before contact, more than he had total rush yards in any game of his career. And I already told Brooksy we're going to do it a little later this week. We're going to highlight their running game. We're going to give some love to that O-line. That O-line we've been bashing all year. And listen, they deserved some of it, no doubt about it. But they did very well last night, running the ball, pulling, trapping, getting guys on the move. They did a nice job last night, and they stuck with the run, 32 rushing attempts. In the shock of a lifetime, I don't know who would have picked outside of family and friends, and I think even in a private moment, they wouldn't have picked the Giants to win last night against that defense of the Denver Broncos. But, man, that's football.
And an interesting little side note in that, and maybe not coincidentally, but you see Ben McAdoo gave up the play calling for that, saying, quote, the whole team needed me this week, whatever that. To whatever degree that was a factor here.
Right.
They changed the play calling. Again, maybe part of it is because they don't have any of their receivers to throw to anyway. But for the first time in as long as we can remember, they ran the football and they stayed with it.
They ran the football 32 times. Eli Manning passed it 19 times. And the big recipient was Ingram. They had no wide receivers, so throw it to your tight end. Had 5 for 82 and a touchdown, and gave Trey Wingo the win over me in DraftKings pretty much.
Off the top.
So he's in second.
Yeah.
I'm in third.
You're in third, but you got a player. I have a player, too, tonight as well.
I know.
I have Delaney Walker.
As do I.
Yeah, I know. So I'm locked out of this.
Even if you didn't, I would have.
Yeah.
I calculate what everybody else has spent, and I know if I need to match it. I'm going to be in the money again this week, and I could catch Trey if Walker goes crazy.
It killed me last night. I had C.J. Anderson, who got me 1.2 points. Thank you very much, Denver. Where the hell were you guys last night?
Meanwhile, I've moved on to the Chiefs.
Yeah, sure you have.
Who have moved away from the ranks of the unbeaten. So the 72 Dolphins can pop that champagne again. The last unbeaten has fallen. The Steelers, with still everything in the world swirling around there, and there's even something new added to that we'll get to in a couple of minutes. But the headline here, the last unbeaten has fallen. The Chiefs lose at home.
I actually picked the Pittsburgh defense in my DraftKings for this.
I
really thought they would step up a bit. And you saw this is what happens, when Le'Veon Bell rushes for Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown both had over 150 yards, one rushing, one receiving, obviously. So that's what this offense can be like when those two guys are hitting. Obviously, Le'Veon Bell is hitting his stride right now after showing up late to camp right at the beginning of the season. There is a whole lot of off-the-field turmoil we've been talking about, whether Ben wants to be there or not. Now, as you mentioned, a new thing where Martavis Bennett, or Bryant, wanting a trade that we'll get into more out of there. But their main ingredients of this one really came up big, and their defense played well as well.
And then finally,
off the top,
we get to Aaron Rodgers. Let's make that off the top. Presented by Progressive Insurance. More independent agents sell Progressive Insurance than any other brand. Find an agent at Progressive.com. Now that's Progressive. Look, football remains it's a passion of the people in this country, and while there are so many people who are less into it than they were before, there are people who are angry about it because of the kneeling during the anthem, and there's all kinds of problems they have going on right now. But the game itself and the sport itself remain a wonderful spectacle. But right now, with the game and the sport and the business of it a little bit under siege, if you will, the last thing in the world they needed was to lose probably their most attractive star.
Yep.
And they probably have. In that there was no one as spectacular. Tom Brady may be the biggest star in the sport,
right.
But there's no one as spectacular to watch
giving you wow
as
plays.
Aaron Rodgers.
Wow, a couple of guys between him and Odell Beckham giving you wow plays.
Yep.
Those guys are done. Aaron Rodgers, Anthony Barr tackles him after he throws the ball yesterday in a clean hit, and Aaron Rodgers lands on his right shoulder and breaks his collarbone. So he did this once before in 2013, and it was the likes of Seneca Wallace, Scott Tolzien, and Matt Flynn taking over for the 7 games he missed, where they went 2-4-1. Let's just be honest about it. They're done. Okay, they can't survive. They've had so many injuries. Both their tackles, again, offensive tackles, are injured. He breaks his collarbone. They're in a lot of trouble. Brett Hundley is going to be the guy. He's going to the UCLA quarterback came out in 2015. They're going to give him the reins. He knows the offense. We'll see what he can do. But I mean, that's going to be tough sledding. Without we always said, well, no matter all the injuries that are going around the Packers, you're getting tweets yesterday about why do they have so many injuries and other teams don't? They do have a lot of injuries, but they have Aaron Rodgers. Now they don't have Aaron Rodgers, and we'll see how long he could be out. Is it a situation where he could come back by the end of the year if they could just stay above water enough to make it into the playoffs. Could he come back? Depends on the break, what they have to do to the collarbone. But, man, you couldn't have worse news for a team outside of Brady being out for the New England Patriots.
It's brutal. And listen, when Brady missed games last year, they won.
They did.
And they
You're
have
right.
Jimmy Garoppolo.
You're right.
Now, I'm not suggesting that he's Brady by any means.
You're right. That's a good point. And even when Brady missed that season years ago, they went 11-5 with Matt Castle. So
this team ain't going 11-5.
No, that's exactly right. So to your point, that is correct. They are. I don't see there's any shot. But then again, I didn't think the Denver Broncos would get smoked by the Giants last night. It is football. You never know what can happen. But, boy, I wouldn't be putting any money worth losing on that one.
Me neither. No, listen, I mean, we have a feature called In the Zone. It's brought to you by AutoZone. You get in the zone with AutoZone. And I'm going to put Aaron Rodgers in the zone today because that's where he's been basically from the moment they handed him the ball. And with the exception of the previous times he's had some injury problems, once it was concussions, and then, of course, as Mike mentioned, the other time it was this same injury, the collarbone injury, and it seems impossible to fathom they'll get him back out there on the field this year. The Green Bay Packers were the betting favorite in the NFC to make the Super Bowl leading into yesterday. They were 5-1, second best in the NFL and best in the NFC. And the entirety of the reason for that was Aaron Rodgers.
Without question.
They are now 25-1, and the NFC favorite is the Philadelphia Eagles as things stand right now. That's a devastating blow for the Green Bay Packers yesterday, losing their quarterback. Let's hear some of the analysis we got yesterday. First off, let's hear from the head coach of the Green Bay Packers. This is Mike McCarthy.
Stating the obvious, the loss of Aaron Rodgers to injury definitely hurts. But as a football team, we have to move forward. Aaron's a great player. He's a huge part of our success in our program. But this is the state of the National Football League. You have to deal with all your injuries.
Listen, I lived this devastation in 91, and it was the first game of the season when Randall got his knee blown out by Bryce Pop of the Green Bay Packers when we thought that was going to be our year. I mean, there was headline after headline of starting that year with our defense and Randall quarterbacking the team that it could be our year to do something there. And he goes down in week 1. And while you know you have to go out and play games and you prepare to win those games, man, there's that dread feeling of, are you kidding me? And I'm guarantee you that's in that lot. They'll all say the right things publicly. We're behind Hundley again. They're out of 2015, out of UCLA, their 5th-round pick. He knows the offense. They'll say all the right things about him. But, man, I guarantee you when they're at home, there is dread. There's absolute dread at what the possibilities were, given the injuries, but getting guys back. We have Aaron Rodgers, and where they are right now, it's just awful.
I lived it, too, if you will, as a fan in 99, which was the Jets came into that season as the best team in the AFC. They had been in the championship game the year before, and Vinny Testaverde blew out his Achilles in the first game untouched. And that was the end of that. And I still remember Bill Parcells saying afterwards, 2 things, fellas, and you know how he talks.
Yeah.
2 things, fellas. 1, they're not canceling the rest of the schedule. And 2, no one's going to feel sorry for us.
Yeah.
But what happened was, instead of winning the Super Bowl, they didn't make it to the playoffs. And that's what's going to happen to the Green Bay Packers. Instead of winning the Super Bowl, they're not going to make it to the playoffs. Either Minnesota or Detroit is going to wind up winning that division, and the Packers are going to be home watching the playoffs because you don't lose a player the caliber of Aaron Rodgers. He is a guy around whom everything there is built, and he's one of the most important, if not the most important players in the league. Once again, that's sort of second. That's something we can talk about in a bigger picture sense at another time of just how much of an impact on the league and on the sport all of these high-profile, exciting, fun-to-watch players going down is. Today is much more about the impact on Green Bay themselves, an NFC contender falling by the wayside. I've got Ryan Clark here. This was Ryan Clark yesterday on the loss of Aaron Rodgers.
When you lose Aaron Rodgers, you don't just lose a great quarterback. You lose the heartbeat of a franchise. You lose one of the faces of the league. And we watch him week after week. You watched him against Dallas engineer that 2-minute drive, and it seemed almost effortless. The 2 passes to Devontae Adams in the corner, it seemed like, oh, my goodness, anybody can do it and just flick their wrist and make the ball only travel 8 yards off the ground and go at a velocity of 45 miles per hour. But you can't.
Right.
You can't create the plays that Aaron Rodgers creates. Those aren't things that Mike McCarthy draws up. They're going to have to change the way they approach offensive football, change the way they play defense, because Aaron Rodgers covers up so many deficiencies in your team and also in your coach. And this is a huge loss, not only for the Green Bay Packers, but this changes how the NFC plays out going forward.
since 1992, Brett Favre's first year with the Packers, they have used the least amount of starting quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Six starting quarterbacks since 1992.
And one of them, actually, I was looking at that stat also, it's Majkowski.
Right.
If we actually just took the stat to when they gave Favre the ball, it would only be 5.
Yes, it would.
Because Majkowski started that season, Favre came in, and that was it, because we all know he started every single game until he left there.
Right, exactly right. And when I intercepted the Magic Man, that pretty much was the end of his career.
Once you've been intercepted by Mike Golick, it's time to give the ball to someone else.
If you get intercepted by me, you're going to tackle me first. And then
Which he did.
Yes, he did, because Reggie didn't block him. So 6 different starting quarterbacks since 92. Next is the Giants with 9, Patriots 10, Steelers 13. You know, I mentioned the division. They're square now with Minnesota, but Minnesota just beat them. They're both 4-2. Detroit's 3-3 after that game that featured about 300 points yesterday against New Orleans. That was amazing. Detroit's down, 45-10. They score the next 28 points. It was a wild game, but Detroit there as well. So I'm with you. I mean, it's just a matter of and I think it will be Minnesota. What gets really interesting with them is Teddy Bridgewater.
Right.
You know, now it can come off the PUP list, you know, between him and Case Keenum or where that one goes.
I don't feel like I have a real sense, as many people as I've tried to ask, of whether they think he can play or not.
I have no sense because he can't, not out on the practice field, but you know he's working, you know he's throwing, you know he's doing some things.
So you know they have some better idea of this, and I can't get any sense of what that is.
Not at all. Not at all. But now, if he can come off the PUP list, he can start being out there practicing, doing his thing. So we may start to get more of an idea of him throwing, of him, and more importantly, moving on that knee. So we'll see.
One way or another, the Packers play the Saints next week. And just to give you an indication of the significance of this injury, before yesterday's game, you could have gotten an early line on that number, on that game out at Westgate. The Packers were a 6.5-point favorite over New Orleans next week. After the Rodgers injury, the Saints are now a 3.5-point favorite.
Wow.
So the injury to Rodgers moved that line 10 points.
Hey everyone, Mike Golick here. Support for Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I'm so happy, I feel like I can fly.
Disclaimer, you will not be able to fly by switching to Geico. This is against the laws of physics and nature. If you find yourself flying, please seek professional and or medical help immediately. In the unlikely event you find yourself flying, you might be a superhero, or a pigeon, or a superhero named Pidgewoman, who was bitten by a radioactive pigeon. If you are indeed Pidgewoman, Geico retains all licensing publishing rights in the event Pidgewoman the movie becomes a top-grossing Hollywood blockbuster.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. KG tweets, I'm a lifelong Giants fan, but you are correct. The call against the Jets was a travesty. Hashtag investigate. I'm not sure why an investigation is necessary. I have all of the proof that I need right there. I have indisputable visual evidence that a crime was committed yesterday. The Jets had a game stolen from them. Andrea tweets, Greeny, you should write a sternly worded letter to the NFL. Oh, fear not, Andrea. I have begun that letter. I'm putting pen to paper.
There you go.
Yeah, this is not even one that this is not going to be an email. This is one that's going on the personalized stationery.
Really?
Absolutely right. I'm crafting this
handwritten letter.
Yeah, seriously.
Wow.
Yeah, dear crooks. What else have I got here? Brandon tweets, I disagree. The tuck rule was the worst call ever. Now, come on, that had no ramifications. That was what was that, a preseason game?
It was a meaningless game.
Yeah, I don't remember the circumstances of that. I don't know why the snow was falling. It was in August.
Meaningless game in sunny weather.
Let's see, Stephen Moore. See, even I have to laugh at this. Now, it's very difficult for me to make this argument. Stephen tweets, Tom Brady is the golden child. He will get every call he wants. That is so funny considering the fact that they suspended him 4 games for probably not deflating football.
Yeah, exactly right. And then another Steve tweets in, Dear New York Jets, welcome to our world, Detroit Lions fans.
That's true. See, that's the thing. I've seen that happen to them time and again in the Dez Bryant call, in that playoff game against Green Bay, which I will believe for the rest of my life was a touchdown. And, look, these things aren't that complicated. It's the 100 drunks in a bar test. And I was there any person watching that, even after if you were just seeing the replay, Be honest with me. Who thought to yourself, I'm not sure that's a touchdown?
Well, here's the thing. In watching it, there was, I thought, one of two outcomes. It was either he regained possession and it's a touchdown, or he didn't and it's an incomplete pass. Never did I see he lost control, fumbled it out of the end zone, Patriots ball. I mean, I didn't see that one coming, and I'll be honest with you. I saw it from all the angles everybody else did. You saw the ball did come loose, but not like loose out in the open loose. He had his arms around it, and then his arms weren't around it. It was loose, but it was within his rib area. Then I thought he regained possession. The knee hit, I thought, inbounds, and the shoulder hit the pylon right around the same time, which to me would still be touchdown. I didn't see anything there that would reverse it, let alone say, not only am I saying it's not, forget it, incomplete, it was a fumble and it's the Patriots ball.
Listen, I'm not the smartest guy in the world.
No, you're not.
I know a lot of people think I am, and I appreciate that.
Nobody thinks that.
But I'm not the smartest person in the world. But let me just ask you a question.
Yeah.
In order for there to be a fumble on a play, don't you actually have to fumble? At what point in that play did Austin Seferian-Jenkins fumble? The ball kind of moved a little bit.
He lost possession of the ball. That he did.
Well, but no one else ever had it.
No. Well,
there was no other possession.
A fumble doesn't mean somebody else has it.
No, I understand that. But my point is, a fumble to me is when the ball is loose. In this case, it was kind of jarred a little bit out of his hands, and he got it back immediately.
I wouldn't even say a fumble. I agree. I would say he lost possession for a split second, regained possession, shoulder, everything hit the pylon. To me, it was a touchdown. I know we've seen explanations, but anything that makes sense to us?
No.
On why that call was made?
Nothing's ever going to make sense to anyone. This call is a criminal
we're going to hear from the league at some point.
We heard from the league. I heard from Tony Correnti yesterday. I've heard everything I need to say. Correnti actually said after the game to Peter King, it was actually a very easy call. That's what he said.
Are we... Maybe we're missing something. Are we missing something here?
It was a terrific call. It's brought to you by Fred's Optometrists, right now helping people who can't see and others who've never seen a football game. One way or another, who has the Seferian-Jenkins sound? Do I have that or you guys have that? Let's hear from Austin Seferian-Jenkins afterwards, who was, I thought, in the moment, he was stunned.
Yeah.
But afterwards, I thought he was extraordinarily classy in the way he handled this. Here he was.
I don't think it does anything for me to come up here and blast the official, blast the rule, or anything like that. The rule is a rule, man. They called it. It is what it is. I got to do a better job of having ball security so it doesn't happen again. And it's that simple. If I catch the ball and I run through both of them, and I stand up and I don't fumble or anything like that, then that's what it is. I didn't feel like I fumbled, but it is what it is. Like, I can't control that. I got a game next week. This game's over with. They played well, made 2 more plays than us to win, and that's what it is.
Wow. I mean, that dude handled it so well. I don't know how his blood wasn't just trickling down his chin from biting his lip on that, but he handled it about as well as you could. And he's right. There ain't nothing you can do about it. He's a guy that had 8 catches for not a ton of yards, 46 yards, but he had a lot of catches in that game. Tight ends were big there. Gronk had, 6 and a couple of touchdowns in that.
He was on Gronk was so good in that. Now, listen, I know it's not breaking new ground to say Gronk is a great player. But we have been commenting all season on how he didn't look right. It didn't look
I agree.
Right. He looks right. Yesterday he looked right.
He definitely looked right. No doubt about it.
The Jets have a terrific young safety in Jamal Adams, who is already a very good player and is going to be a great player.
Yeah.
And Gronk took him to school a little bit yesterday.
Gronk is when he's right or as close to right as he is. No, you put Travis Kelce up there because he's having that monster year, but Gronk's just bigger, and just really, really just an excellent player. And I agree with you yesterday there. I don't know where else to go with that call. The Jets were playing, obviously, New England well, but they've certainly done that in the past. We see one-score games all the time with these two teams, but the Jets had over 400 yards. Josh McCown had over 3. The Patriots defense has given up 300-yard passing every single week this year. Every single week. But this one, they come back and win, and that was – I really want to hear something. Are we going to hear something from the NFL on that? I just can't believe – the official actually said it to him. It was an easy call. Then I am completely not knowing what the rule is or not knowing what was going on, because all I can say is I saw him lose possession, regain possession, and hit the pylon. So to me, it was.
They're saying that he did not regain possession, that the ball is still loose, at the point, now we're watching the video here, so at the point after he hits the pylon, that he still does not fully have possession of.
That stuns me because he sure as hell looked like he had possession to me.
Correct. And you have to be 100% certain, indisputable, unassailable visual evidence that he didn't. That's the decision that they made.
Yeah.
That Tony Correnti said was an easy decision. And the people at Park Avenue, it's not the referee's decision at the end of the day. Nope. It was called a touchdown on the field. The people in Park Avenue are the ones who stole that game. Mike and Mike, we are brought to you by Upside. Now save big on travel. Get a big gift card with every trip you buy. You'll love Upside.com. That's Upside.com. Once again, I'll make it as clear. I'm trying to be calm here. Yeah, I'm not calling for a suspension. I'm not calling for a firing. I'm calling for a criminal investigation, and I will not rest until I have it. We got tweets. Steve Kleck tweets at me, "Dear New York Jets, welcome to our world." Signed Detroit Lions fans everywhere. J.D. Green, whose Twitter handle has Hail UM in it, Michigan, tweets, "Welcome to our world, Greeny." Signed all Michigan fans. Hashtag JT was short. So look, all of us who've ever been on the wrong side of a bad call, you know that it just, Mike, let me ask you a question, all kidding aside.
Yeah.
Because I will frequently joke about how this stuff matters more to the fans than it does the players, but I recognize on some level that it doesn't. When you lose a game the way the Jets did, now there's no. Let me be totally, obviously, I'm joking around a little bit here although I am extraordinarily frustrated this morning. The Jets may very well not have won the game anyway. They still would have been losing by 3, and who knows how the game plays out after that, if that play is called a touchdown. But when you lose a game in large part because of what you thought was a terrible call that went against you, is that worse than losing a game regularly? Something happens that is beyond your control. Like Todd Bowles got up there and said, "Look, we didn't lose the game because of that play. There's a lot of other plays and blah blah blah."
Well, that's what I was going to say. When did that happen?
It happened in the middle of the fourth quarter.
Okay, I mean, you have plays after that. If it's from a player's perspective, you have a chance to go on the field and still control what you do, and they did. Now afterwards, you sit there and you think about it, you get mad at it. It's different if it's the last play of the game and you have no more recourse after that. You have no more chances after it. The game is over on that call. You would be more angry. But when you can go back on the field, you have to have a short memory. You can be mad about it. You can look at it. I saw them all looking at the screen going, how can you make that call? You got to go play. So when you go play, you have opportunities still again to win the game. And they were playing well enough at times, certainly, to win that game. There's no doubt about it. So from a player's standpoint, there are going to be plays every game that that are head scratches that go for you and go against you. That's the thing about it. You play long enough. This looked pretty egregious, but you get a call that seems really bad against you. You'll get calls that seem really bad for the other team that you get. So you understand that, and if you have a chance to get on the field and do something, you do it. So from a player standpoint, you have more plays to play. You got to take advantage of them.
Crouton tweets at us just on some other games here. Any defense playing the Packers for the remainder of the season will be the number one pickup in fantasy.
Listen, I mean,
agree with that?
Again, he can't pull out the magic like Aaron did. At least we don't think he can. Their offensive line is beat up, especially those tackles that they have. It's going to be difficult. I mean, it's going to be it's going to have to be a muted offense of what they're used to. But I say that, but a lot of things that Aaron does, he does on the run. He does on the go. I mean, so we'll see. Hundley's going to have a chance to be on the go and on the run. I don't think anybody expects him to be Aaron Rodgers-esque right out of the gate. So, yeah, I mean, you'll be very interested to see how they play him. Do you man up? Do you blitz him? Do you zone to make him throw into small, to have to read more before he makes his decision, to hold on to the ball a little longer? A lot of things you'll try against him.
Michael tweets, the Vikings compete without their best running back, their best receiver, and they've lost 2 quarterbacks. The Packers are the Browns without Rodgers. Team construction. The difference there is the Vikings weren't a team built around their quarterback. They had an emerging, young, really good quarterback in Teddy Bridgewater, but they weren't built around their quarterback, and he wasn't making all the money that Rodgers is making.
But the thing you do is you get rid of your future Hall of Fame running back and Adrian Peterson, because his kind of game doesn't really work in the NFL unless you're with the Cardinals and he runs for over 100 yards.
Yeah.
Well, a nice game by him. But you do a nice job in drafting a Dalvin Cook who can run and catch it. Then he gets hurt. Your offensive line, you've completely redone. So that's where I give them a lot of credit. Completely redid that offensive line. Then you get your running back hurt. You have a different quarterback in there. Diggs is out, so Floyd takes his spot, going away from Floyd. Michael Floyd just started playing last week off his suspension. So, yeah, you are missing some talent there, no doubt about it.
And you've got the worst of all situations you can have in the NFL. You can debate all day long whether paying the quarterback all that money, and we all know what all that money means, is worth it or not. I always say, yes, it is absolutely worth it, because if you don't have one, you're desperate to find one, and look how valuable Rodgers is. The worst case scenario, though, is you're paying him all that money and you lose him to an injury, because now he's a quarter of your salary cap, and that's what happens. And then finally, Junior, this is an interesting tweet. How much does Stafford have to prove his worth now that the division is wide open? And I think it's worth looking at. The Bears are playing a rookie, and they won a crazy game yesterday.
Yeah, they did.
But they're playing a rookie. They're not going to challenge for the division. You've got the Vikings, who've lost another quarterback. Who knows if Bradford's coming in or not? They've had a million injuries. Stafford gets the huge contract this offseason. Now here's his shot. So I think I agree with that thought. There is some decent pressure on him.
What a game that was against New Orleans. 45-10 at one point in favor of the Saints. The Detroit scores the next 28. It's 45-38, and then they get the ball on a kind of a muffed punt at the 1-yard line. Tipped pass, defensive touchdown. There were 5 defensive touchdowns in this game, 3 by the Saints, a team not known for great defense. So that was a crazy game. But back to the tweeter's point, is exactly right. This is Stafford's chance. They're 3-3. Minnesota's 4-2. Green Bay is 4-2. But as far as I'm concerned, that division, and we all know it's not talking out of school. This division is now wide open, and I would absolutely favor the Minnesota Vikings without question to win this division, mainly because of that great defense they have.
And I would favor the Lions. Time for Straight Talk now, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. This is what I was referring to before the break. The Dolphins with a crazy come-from-behind win in Atlanta yesterday, which maybe you say, my God, that's one of the most startling results we've seen in the league this year. But let's take a step further back and say, maybe it isn't. The Falcons are an eyelash away from being 1-4. They're 3-2 as we speak. But they beat the Bears week 1 because the Bears dropped 2 touchdowns, 2 balls that were right in the hands of receivers in the end zone that would have beaten them at the end. And they beat Detroit week 3 on that play where the touchdown was overruled, where Golden Tate's Tuchus was 6 inches short of the goal line. So they're 2 plays away, and both those plays were basically made. I mean, blatant drops by the Bears, and then an overturn that was, remember, they ran off the last 8 seconds of the clock, so Detroit didn't get another chance. I'm just making sure everyone remembers the game I'm talking about. If not for that, Atlanta would be 1-4. And if you watch them play, they just don't look right. Now, I don't know if it's the Super Bowl hangover. I don't know if it's losing Kyle Shanahan, who clearly had a magic working with Matt Ryan, but they still have all the same guys on that team. They have all those good players still on that roster, all those explosive stars on offense that you know, and speed and everything else. And yet, Mike, in their own building, they're losing games, and they just don't look right. They just don't look that good.
You know, Julio Jones has been nicked up. Sanu's still missing games. They still have the Coleman and Freeman, the 2 running backs who I like. The O-line we had talked about being solidified once Alex Mack got there. They almost lost Matthews, the left tackle, when he just got hit from behind by a couple of players on one play, but he was all right from that. And the defense, quite honestly, Greeny, the defense is built on speed, which means you want to get there, you create turnovers, you wreak havoc on the quarterback. They only have 12 sacks. That ranks in the 20s. They only have 2 interceptions. So, you know, that's where Dan Quinn really is trying to make his mark, because they had the weapons on offense, but defense, he wanted to go smaller. He wanted to go speed, fast, quickness. That's the type of defense he wanted to play, and they're not coming up with the big plays at this point on defense.
They've got 3 consecutive road games now, which you don't see a lot of teams have, and 4 of their next 5 on the road. They're at New England, then they're at the Jets, and they're at Carolina, and then 2 weeks after that, they're at Seattle. So this is a very tough stretch for the defending NFC champs as they try to make their way back to the playoffs. Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. Buster Olney on the baseball coming up next. Busy on a Monday. Stay with us, Mike and Mike.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I'm so happy, I feel like I can fly.
Disclaimer, you will not be able to fly by switching to Geico. This is against the laws of physics and nature. If you find yourself flying, please seek professional and or medical help immediately. In the unlikely event you find yourself flying, you might be a superhero, or a pigeon, or a superhero named Pidgewoman, who was bitten by a radioactive pigeon. If you are indeed Pidgewoman, Geico retains all licensing publishing rights in the event Pidgewoman the movie becomes a top-grossing Hollywood blockbuster.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.